Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm bringing to you my short spoiler-free review of Inkredia or Luwan of Brida by Sarang Mahajan, which is the first book inside a YA fantasy Indian series. I read this as part of my book club for February 2025 and it was a really good reading experience for me. So without any further ado, let's get into the various sections of the review right away. The first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the plot of this book. But before getting into this one, this is the other edition of the book which you can see here. So both of these covers are available. Both of them are the same book, you need not confuse. The series is supposed to have 4 books out by now, but for some reason I don't think the further books inside the series have been published so far. So in this book, we follow our main character Luwan, who's a herb collector and he's living in the small village named Brida inside this country of Inkredia. Luwan is 17 years old and he's living all alone in a small hut on the top of a hill because he had quarreled with his sister, who's the only family he has right now, and she is living in a different part of the village away from him. Now what happens in the beginning of the book is Luwan should have paid some amount of tax to the people who guard the village, but since he does not have any money right now because of so many things that are going on in his life, he refuses to pay the tax and the tax collectors are behind his foot right now. He escapes from the village of Brida and along with him his elder sister Meg also goes away from the village. They are being followed by these people and from there the story just gets bigger. It feels like they are being chased by these people only, but after some time we get to know that the tax collectors are not the only people who are looking for Luwan and Brida, but there are some other people at a huger stake with far heftier ambitions that are following them. Moving on to the characters, we follow 4 main characters inside this book, of whom the first 2, as I said before, are Luwan and Meg, who are the siblings, and the whole story actually happens surrounding and revolves around both Luwan as well as Meg. For me personally, both of them did not feel like main character materials inside this book, but I think they may develop as we move on inside the series. Apart from Luwan and Meg, we also have this other guy named Narjo who ends up helping Luwan and Meg to get out of the village. What all happens to him, how he is trying to get them out of the village and why he is doing them is all part of the plot which just moves the story forward. Apart from him, we also have this other character named Kilian, who's very much important for the progression of the story. How both Luwan and Meg escape from Brida and go to this other part called the city in specific is the full plot of this book itself. And I can say that of the characters whom we see here, Kilian is the one who's most enjoyable. There's a lot of mystery that is packed inside the character of Kilian and that itself just makes him so much more interesting to read about compared to any of the other characters. Luwan, if you ask me, is very irritating and childlike in the beginning of the book, and towards the end, I can see that there's a little bit of growth in his character. But Meg, if you ask me, just felt like very flat from the beginning to the end. She felt like a character who was getting afraid of each and every small thing that was happening inside the plot, and that kept on pissing me off. I felt like since she's the elder sibling, she behaved in a much more mature way. But in the beginning of the story, she behaves in a mature way. But as the story progresses on, it just feels like Meg is a child and she does not feel like an adult at all. So as a whole, I can say that the character work is okay, and my favorite character so far has been Kilian. Next, moving on to the world building and writing aspects of this book, of which I think the world building is the strongest pillar for this book personally for me, because this is an Indian fantasy book which does not draw in any kind of inspiration from Hinduism or any other kind of mythology that we have inside our country. Usually Indian fantasy books have a lot of elements from Hindu mythology, Hindu religion and all other religions and mythologies that are part of our Indian culture, but this one does not go in such a way at all. It has its own kind of mythology, it has its own kind of magic, it has its own cultures that are being followed by the people. Even the names of the characters whom we see here do not sound either Indian or foreign at all. They feel like very organic made up names, which just makes the story even more fresh if you ask me. There's a lot of magic also involved in the story, but it is not like any twist inside the plot can just happen because of the magic. There's a lot of foreshadowing that is done by the author in terms of world building and magic inside the story. Even if the world is not that well built, okay, you cannot see the world beautifully just unfolding in front of your eyes like some of the other fantasy books, I can say that the world building here is okay. It just shows you that this is not a world that you've already seen, okay? It's a new one, it's a fresh one. It does not take inspiration from any of the others in a very blatant way. There are also these creatures called Korks and some other pretty nasty and amazing creatures who get into the story and keep the plot moving. I liked all the creatures very much, especially the goats and their riders. They kept the story moving and thrilling for me. And in terms of writing, I can say that this did not have that great writing. Okay, the writing was very clunky for me, did not flow well at all. And since it was clunky and did not flow well, it hindered my reading experience a little bit because the story was good, the characters were nice, the world building, as I said before, in terms of the magic was really good, and the author did a lot of foreshadowing. But all of these were hindered because of the lack of writing that the author had. Okay, I think this is the first book of the author, and I can understand why the writing is not at its peak here. I was not able to read the book continuously because the writing did not flow well. I'm not able to articulate it in a better way. I think if the author keeps on writing books inside the series, I think the further books will become much better in terms of writing also. Except for the writing, I don't think there is anything that is huge as a con inside this book. Every other thing was really well done. Finally, talking about the pacing inside the book is really fast because it is action-packed. One thing keeps on happening after the other, and if not for the lack of smoothness inside the writing, I think I could have finished reading this book in just one day itself because it is that action-packed and well-paced. And the action scenes are also not repetitive. They happen in a very new and fresh way each and every time as we move on inside the story. The same thing does not keep happening over and over again, even if it happens between the same set of characters again and again. The author makes use of both the antagonists inside the story, the people who are helping the antagonists, the general public who are insisting inside this world, the magical creatures that he's created, the supernatural creatures that he's created, the animals that are part of the plot, all to just add on to the action and keep the pace brisk and fast. So in terms of pacing, the book is really well paced and makes you want to keep turning the pages and know what's going to happen next. As a whole, this book was a really good reading experience for me, and I ended up rating this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. So yes guys, that's it for my spoiler-free review of Inkredia Luwan of Brida by Sarang Mahajan. If you have read the book already, please do let me know down in the comments what are your opinions of it, and we can discuss further on without spoiling it for others. Or if you found this video useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.